What's going on, guys? My name is MrHurriicane, and yesterday was the Season 4 off-season live stream for the UTSA Dynasty, and for the purpose of this video, I'm breaking out of my commentator character I have during the actual weekly episodes of the games in the series to just give you my perspective. Basically, it's a lot easier to do it for the off-season videos, but this is the condensed version. If you wish to watch the near 3-hour live stream version, I'll link that in the annotation, but I'll recap the entire offseason for you guys right now. And so obviously, a 6-7 season with the bowl loss counting in the record. Not as good as the previous year, not at all. But the team, you know, they're young, they look strong at times, and were resilient towards the end. 3 straight victories to end the season. And I knew it would be a weird year because of graduating so many seniors and replacing well over half of the starting roster all the way across the board, all 22 starters. It looked like a very different team in Season 4. And here are the statistics for the end of the year. There was Anthony Banks, the first ever 1,000-yard rusher for UTSA, 1,100 plus yards. Tim Whitaker played well as a #1 receiver. And of course, the quarterback issue with Evan Newton's injury history and Eric Hancock's superior ability from the pocket. Very interesting going into Season 5. It seems I always have these quarterback controversies with a big cloud over all my series, but that's just the way it goes. But here we see Anthony Banks shattering Evan Zokacha's single-season rushing record and in a career as well. This is his 3rd year getting major playing time, and Anthony Banks, it's so weird. It feels like the series is really just getting going almost, yet some of my first prospects, Anthony Banks, Mike Butler, Dominic Carter, they're all becoming seniors. That's the only downfall, I think, doing a dynasty. Like, you get so behind these players, and they're gone within 4 years, basically. But we have 5 seniors graduating. It wasn't a very big issue, and that made recruiting very easy. And however, look at Alabama. They had 10 juniors alone leave for the draft, and that was the funniest thing I thought during the stream. And we all were kind of joking around like maybe we should play Alabama this year, our first SEC game. Maybe they're going to be weaker, and you'll see their roster here in a little bit. But then we see the pro results in the draft, and nobody from UTSA has been drafted yet in history in this series. Adefemi Adiki, he had 11 interceptions last year, guys. I don't know how he didn't go in the 7th round or something, but still looking for that first draft pick, as Alabama had like 15. So we're going to transition now to the actual offseason. This is the recruiting, and with 5 seniors graduating, and only a handful of guys I for sure wanted to cut, it was all about quality, not quantity, whereas last year, graduating 29 seniors, I believe it was all about maximizing however many scholarships they allot you. I think it's 25, had to get as many guys as possible, whereas where I had my board here entering the stream, I had 15 guys I was looking at to fill at least 8 spots. Vince Taylor was the big recruit we got. He was supposed to be a 70 overall. He went up to a 75 with recruiting. Saw he was a very balanced running back. Speed, power, acceleration, elusiveness. He could be the complete package, or at least a poor man's version of a complete package. He's not like a 5-star prospect or anything, but he was a guy I was really excited about. There's Johnny Jenkins, and I know that UTSA doesn't have very many tall receiving threats, so I wanted to add someone on the outside. And in addition to the passing offense, I wanted a receiving tight end, and the options were a bit limited this year after last year we had an unnamed player leave the team because he wanted playing time, so he went to Houston when he could have been our starting tight end. And so back to the drawing board at tight end. Preston Quinn, a defensive end, pursuing some defensive tackle depth with James Davis and the junior college transfer, Stuart Stewart. But overall, the focus was not on the defensive line or the linebacker depth because that was definitely addressed last year. Now the main concern, especially after the bowl game, looks like cornerback's going to be an issue, especially with Alondre Thornton graduating. And after the bowl game, of course, Jason Holmes got beat badly in that game. So it was a little late to look for an impact player, but at least with the developments and everything, the team will get better. But that looked like a weak link after I put a lot of time into recruiting at corner. And so through these 5 weeks, it was all about trying to get those high-profile offensive linemen to strengthen the offensive line, and I wanted to find a real nickel corner. I spent the first few years looking at those tall outside press coverage man corners, and now I wanted to get myself an Antoine Winfield or a Tyrann Mathieu, a smaller guy that can tackle and can play in the slot. And it was so hard to try to find a guy who was like 5'10", 190 or 200 pounds that could hit. Most of the guys just couldn't hit or tackle from the scouting I did, but as we continue now, we see the recruiting class is now finalized, and I didn't want to have like 25 players, whatever they gave me. I think it's a bunch of walk-ons and stuff, but there was going to be a lot of guys to cut after this. We see the training results, though, and rating-wise, and looking at how some of these guys have developed, made me very excited. If you're wondering about overall ratings, last year we had 2 guys in the 80 overalls. One of those guys is now gone at Femi Adiki, but the way the guys have really improved their skills, I'm really excited about Season 5. We see the quarterbacks, throw power, throw accuracy, getting better for Newton and Hancock, whichever one is going to be playing. And you know, quarterback injuries have been pretty common, so it's nice to have at least 2 guys you can count on. And then there's Bob Young down there because I haven't found a replacement for Mr. Bob, who was a walk-on last year. Tight end, still my nemesis, have not filled the void. But Trevor Stephens actually had a pretty good year last year, and he was able to get open at the very least. He's not very fast, but he was able to get open. Willie Kelly, loved the way he developed. As a freshman last year, he played mostly right guard, and we have another really good center prospect coming in this year that's going to probably be the starter. But overall, the offensive line is getting stronger, and the only guy we have graduating from the line is Jamie Brunell, last year's center, but we already had his replacement twice, actually, taken in recruiting. So, look at the defensive side of the ball now. Linebacker and defensive line is going to look almost the same. The main additions are Stuart Stewart and Preston Quinn. And Dominic Carter, he's a senior, but of course with Kyle Jones there, his replacement is waiting for an opportunity. He does get to play in the 3-4 defense mainly, and he's the 4th linebacker off the bench most of the time. Corner, it's going to be a fight. I don't know how it's going to look in the regular season besides Kyle Nichols being the lead guy, and Dallas Johnson will take over for last year's standout Adefemi Adiki, last year's definite team MVP. So there's a look right there at the top-rated players on our team this year. And now, to cut some of the walk-ons, they gave us 88 players overall. So we have to cut 18 guys, and most of it was cutting the walk-ons that were just not as good as the guys I'd actually recruited. And there was a guy like Mike Sims. I actually did recruit him, didn't offer him a scholarship, but he was a walk-on and wasn't what I wanted. We already have blocking tight ends like Oliver Carter. But some walk-ons, usually 2 or 3, end up making the team each time because I don't get everybody I want recruiting, and so I have to basically just pick from whatever's left from the walk-ons and then redshirt them and see what happens next year. So as we go forward now, the custom conferences, everybody wanted me to change up Louisiana Tech, so they're now in the Conference USA, and UTSA has changed to the Western Division because it makes more sense geographically. They're going to be playing probably all the Texas schools in that division. And now with redshirting, people wanted to maybe see me redshirt Vince Taylor, but I have a plan for Vince Taylor. There's a reason why I pursued him ever since preseason recruiting of last year. We're going to, however, redshirt Curtis Davis, the tight end. He's really ready to get some meaningful snaps in his first year, but overall there wasn't very many guys to redshirt because the freshmen I wanted were going to be guys who are going to be playing or the second guy in the line for offensive line. The rest of the guys were mainly walk-ons that I cut, and we only had to fill like 8 roster spots overall. So the team is very much the same as last year. No big transition this year. This should be a big boost, actually, as the team has gotten stronger, gotten older. And I think on paper it's probably the best team that I've put together so far in the series. Now about the schedule. Alabama, yeah, they're fine. They let 10 juniors go to the draft. Don't worry, they'll have 10 more going this year. But wanted to find some more solid competition, a lot like last year. We were outmatched in those 3 games, went 1-2 in the big non-conference games, and then beat Texas State. But this year, UTSA will open the season at home against Syracuse, play a road game in Hawaii, and then hopefully they're still ranked to this point. We put Ohio on the schedule to play on the road before we get into the meat of the schedule in Conference USA play. And then we'll obviously finish the year again against Texas State on the road this time around. So there is the schedule, and I'm showing a little bit of customization here. In the last stream I did for Season 3 off-season, I took like an hour and a half to do this customization, but not this time around. Took care of running back Vince Taylor and then wide receiver Johnny Jenkins, who may or may not get a lot of playing time. It depends because the guys who are depth now, the 4th and 5th receivers, never really played with them. Robert Stanley and Chris Woods, who was redshirted last year from Canada. We got Marvin Stokes here, a safety prospect. Good to get one of those guys as both free safeties will graduate next year. And then Preston Quinn, and this is just a monster of a man. And he will definitely get some playing time in the 3-4 looks, as he is a 3-4 defensive end. He's a big guy. So we're going to look at a little bit of preseason recruiting. I'm going to mainly show you guys the recruiting after the episodes each game. Right here, I'm just trying to give you the focus of this year's recruiting class. We have 12 seniors as opposed to 5 last year, so it's a little bit more to fill in. But the 2 top priorities are going to be impact corners and a receiving tight end. We have a couple guys, some major stars that are graduating like Dominic Carter and Anthony Banks, but I already have both of those guys replacements. And so I added a lot of tight ends and a lot of corners to the recruiting board, and why not go for the top guy? Never recruited a 5-star prospect to UTSA, but look what they have to offer. This is D.D. Love, one of the top overall prospects in this year's recruiting class, and he is the total package. He's got decent size, speed, coverage ability. He's everything you'd want in a corner. Now looking at Nick Dorsey. This guy's more of a nickel corner now. This is what I was looking for. He's got a little bit of hitting power. He's a solid cover guy, just not exactly what I'm looking for. I want someone who's a better tackler than cover guy, basically. I need to get that shirt tackler in the defense, especially with how some of those running backs tear us apart when we get to our nickel and sub packages. That's a big issue. And then people in the stream wanted to see me go after athletes. I never really do because it takes more scouting points to really figure out what their strengths are, and I like focusing on guys who have defined positions like this guy here, James Frazier, receiving tight end. I have to find his catching ability, but so far it looks good. And so that, guys, will conclude the Season 4 edited off-season version. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and are excited for Season 5. I am very excited. I plan on getting out Week 1, probably on Monday. I won't be doing a big video introducing this year's class like I have the last 2 years because there's not as many impact guys this year. It's largely the same roster as last year with a few new sprinkled in players. So it's Week 1 against Syracuse at the Alamo Dome. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm excited for Season 5. Hope you are too. I'll see you then. Have a great day.